Expect during our time together. Obviously, you're not going to get Taylor Swift, so don't expect her. You do have me. And essentially, what I would love for us to talk about is the role. Teacher roles have changed so much, even in, post COVID. Like, it's just different. But nobody's talking about how the role of the instructional coach should also change to support what teachers are doing. And now with this AI explosion, it's going to look different. It should look different because what teachers need is so much more different, so different. So, and then I just said, I didn't want it to cause you trouble. And then, yes, there is a link. If you know, you know. So we're going to talk about what does change look like in education, and kind of how can you adapt to that. We're going to talk about what should instructional coaches be looking for, be doing to support teachers, and then also what is our ask of teachers as instructional coaches. And then I provided some tools and or resources at the end, just to sort of, if you didn't know where to get started to embrace your own learning, here are some places that you can do that. So Rachel or Kim, either one, or is it Kamal? If you wanted to join in. If you don't, that's cool too. Have any of you ever?
Okay. Yeah, it's Kamal. Yeah.
Kamal. Okay, fantastic. Come on, that's beautiful. I'm just. Oh, hi, Laura. We've got a small group, so Rachel has kindly taken her camera and turned it on, and we're just going to kind of talk through some things instead of me just presenting. So feel free to join in the conversation, either camera on or camera off. But so the first question is, change happens in our daily life all the time. But change in education can be particularly disrupting, but it still happens all the time. So I'm wondering, have you ever gone through any sort of change where you were like, I'm really excited about this, but it's still really hard and I really could use some help?
I'll jump in and answer that question. Absolutely. About 7 or 8 years ago now, I took a leap and changed jobs, changed states, and at the same time stumbled upon EduMatch. And so EduMatch became the community that helped me when I was moving into a new position that had no curriculum. I was a department of one in the district, and it was a time where I definitely needed support, but I was also very excited about it. And EduMatch was there to help me adapt to it.
That is amazing. Yay, EduMatch!
I know, right?
Yeah. And so in the end, you felt successful, or
yes.
You felt, okay, good.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing first. Laura, did you have like an experience that you wanted to share as well?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
I've been on the cutting edge all my life. I got into PCs in the early 80s, and my colleagues said I didn't do real work because I wasn't programming on the mainframe. But I did analysis going to every customer with the help desk of, who's this person? Is this person likely to install software themselves, or a student worker installed something, and things like that. And finally, when they had job descriptions that matched what I did, I moved on to the next technology, which is the web. And instead of being the behind the scenes person, I managed the content. And I had a WP Carey MBA, and I did the MBA web pages. So they only had to tell me things like tuition or dates or things like that, I could write the rest. And my colleagues said I didn't do real work because they did coding behind the scenes. And when marketing finally realized that was their job and took that over, then I said, well, what's my next cutting edge? And back like around 2001, at an MBA alumni event, I had heard a speaker talk about massive changes that we go through, like when we got the printing press, when we got the train going across the US, that you don't know where you're going to be in the final set, and it's kind of messy in between, and that education was going through that. Now remember that we didn't have cell phones really when she was talking about this. And so I knew education was going through change. And again, I was still doing technology stuff, not necessarily teaching, and paid attention to all that going on. And when ChatGPT, I discovered that, I knew that this is another major change, and immersed myself in learning about it this summer. The problem is, as an early adapter, when you're in a group of resist change, they don't value what you have. And they'll even write in the job descriptions, they want somebody that does this and this, but they can't see that you're doing it.
Right. That's true. It's true. And so that's where the community who believes in you is so valuable, right? Like, you don't necessarily need the community to adapt, because you're leading that adapting, right? But you need the community to believe in your mission, and then you need, so that when it's time,
Right.
you can turn around and support those people who didn't believe in you. You can help them adapt.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. Fantastic. Thank you. Hi, Vicki. How are you?
Hi, I'm great.
Good. It's so good to see you. We're kicking off, and we're just talking about change, and any sort of change that you've experienced where change is all around us. It's the only constant, right? And so a change where you've been really excited, but just because it's exciting doesn't mean it's not hard, and that you don't need support with that. And if you wanted to share, then that would be great. If you don't, then that's fine too.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me. And Erin, I'm so happy to see you. I picked this because of you. So similar to Laura's story, I've always been a change agent, and I get excited about change, and I like to innovate. So as a leader, as a principal for the past 16 years, it's difficult leading change and bringing others along, especially when you are excited about change and inspired by it and want to do things better, and getting others on board. So like, you have to lean into tools, matrices and things like that to make sure that I've got all those components needed to communicate change covered. So just thinking about how AI will be helpful in navigating and leading change. Also a big change for me is I did just retire in June from the role of principalship and moving into and consulting now. So that's been super exciting. And I lean into, especially when I'm leading change, like I really lean into my community of other ed leaders, because that's, such a big part of that job is leading change with others.
Absolutely. Fantastic example. Congratulations on your retirement, by the way, if I didn't already tell you that. I'm very excited for you. So these are all fantastic examples of how you really need some sort of support, whether it's to adapt, or whether it's to believe in you, or there's a whole spectrum, but we need that community. We need to be adaptable, right? And so when we think about our teachers, we know that their immediate community, right, is their colleagues, so those other teachers. And we know that instructional coaches and the leadership, we we are the ones who are there to really support them and build them up. So we all have a role to play in helping everybody adapt. So just thinking about instructional coaching, right? Instructional coach's role, very much like a teacher, which I will say, I moved from one school in one state to another school in another state, and my new principal, I said, what do I need to do? What do I need to prepare? And he's like, oh, well, it's an instructional coaching role. So, you've done it once, you've done it at one school, you've done it at every school. And I'm like, not really, but okay. So, I just kind of waited until I got to this school and tried to build the relationships then, which felt uncomfortable to me because it was a new environment. I didn't know it. It wasn't comfortable to me. Whereas the other school, at least I had contacts. I'd made friends already. There were it was the town that I grew up in, so there were already people, like I knew people who knew people who knew people back to this school just because I'd grown up there, and this was a whole new world. So to make the assumption that every instructional coaching role looks the same is I think flawed. Just like if I were to say, well, you're a principal, you can be a principal at any school, like you don't have to prepare, it looks the same. Or even a teacher, like it looks different because the expectations are different. That said, I think a very large majority of instructional coaches, right? You get into that role, leadership, you get into that role because you want to support teachers, you want to help teachers. You have the love for the children, but you also have the love for the adults who are making the impact on those kids. And so I guess my thought is, as an instructional coach, maybe one of the things I did is I would go in and I would do observations. And sometimes that was just on a regular basis so that I could give them compliments. Sometimes it was a directive from an administrator, like, I want you to go in and work with this person. And I think with AI coming into this, there will still be those elements, but I think that there's going to be a big shift in what instructional coaches need to do in order to support teachers. And so with this thought, I would love to hear if you've been an instructional coach or worked with instructional coaches and given those directives, how have you asked coaches to work with and support teachers? Because we need to recognize that it's got to change, right? And if we don't reflect, then we can't make those changes. So what have you done so that now we know how can we move forward? Laura, thanks for raising your hand.
Yes.
I love it.
So my first job when I moved out here to Arizona and worked at ASU was the help desk, but I had to be selling faculty on using these new PCs. They thought that you were crazy thinking I should type my own research paper. I have a secretary to do that. And I don't care if it takes a week. I know when I'll get it back from her or whatever. And if you said that to somebody who's coming in as a new faculty today, they'd look at you like you were crazy. But they saw it as secretarial beneath them and that. And I had innovators that were coming in with wanting to learn and use new technology. And then I was a staff. In the pecking order, I was low on the totem pole. So I didn't have authority to come in and tell them what to do and that. But as I would go out and help them with something, if I felt they were ready, I'd say, well, did you know you can do this or that? And one of the times, one of the faculty, when he had understood something that I was fixing, and then I showed him the next thing, he sat back and looked at me. He's like, you're a teacher. Because I was providing him with what he needed at exactly that time, building relationships so that when he understood one concept, he could then understand the next one. And I showed it to him. And I've also had friends that say I should work in our Center for Teaching and Learning because if they've come in as new faculty and that, I can quickly get them up to speed with important things. I'm an organizer at heart, giving them the efficient way to do this and that and that. And so I've been down this path before. And so easily embrace it, but you also know that as an adjunct faculty, they're not going to listen to me. And they're having a conference that's on AI for the degrees they're producing to be the behind the scenes AI people, whereas I'm always the front for making technology easier for the user. So later I'll talk about using ChatGPT with Excel.
Oh,
As
nice.
opposed to they're teaching them how to do programming languages and things like that. And that's what I was doing when I got into PCs. And that's what I was doing when I did the web, was always the upfront with the customer and making the customer's job easier. So that's some of what we're doing. And we're just seeing our peers as a customer.
Yes. Yes. You have such a great, almost 360 perspective. Like you're seeing all of the parts and pieces and how it needs to scaffold and build. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Vicki, Rachel, would either of you like to share anything? Nope. Okay. That's cool. You're good. Okay. All right. So, basically what I am thinking here is, so often as an instructional coach, we would go in and we had the agenda like in our head. Here's what we're doing for you to help you. It wasn't teacher driven. It was driven by me, right? And that's helpful sometimes, but it's not always helpful. And I feel like there's been a big shift. I could be wrong. I mean, there's been a big shift, and we need to have the teachers drive that agenda. But
are you ready to revolutionize your professional learning? It's time to ignite your passion with EduMatch. Inspire, connect, and grow. Access over 150 professional learning facilitators and explore a wide range of educational topics. This is not just professional development. This is a movement. Discover how EduMatch can support your school or district. Connect with us today and make a world of difference for your students. To learn more, visit us online at edumatch.org.
But here's the thing. Right now, teachers have such a massive mental load that they can't drive that agenda, right? So there's too many things that they're trying to juggle. Everything that they used to do, plus everything that they're challenged with now, with AI, post-pandemic, families, testing, curriculum changes, all of that stuff. It's just not possible. So I kind of sat back and thought, like when I was a new mom, or when I started a new role and it was like, well, what do you need? Oh, I'm like, I don't even know. Even now, my husband says, well, tell me what to do. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you because I don't know. So it's like, it's less of open-ended and more, how can we support the teachers at the beginning to set that agenda? And then how can we help them with what they do say that they will need? And so, Vicki, I will come right back to you. Absolutely. Oh, Rachel, you too. Yes. And so my thought was, all right, if we're coming and we're talking about AI, right? You're not gonna necessarily show up to the teacher who is like head down, barely keeping their head above water. You're not gonna go to them and be like, let's talk about AI, right? But if somebody is cutting edge, if somebody has expressed some interest, if there's been a conversation, you can go and you can give that multiple choice. Well, let's talk about it. What are you interested in? Are you interested in a tool? Are you interested in using it with your students, for yourself? Like, what do you want? If you give that multiple choice, then it takes the mental load off and you just pick one. It's like picking a restaurant, right? Where do you want to go? I don't know. Let me give you 3 choices. Vicki, go ahead.
I just want to add too, after listening to you as well as Laura, like I had a instructional coach for I think maybe 3 years, maybe 4 before I retired. And there's such a mindset shift that is involved in that. And so many times our teachers feel like if I go to the coach, that means I'm not doing well. And trying to get through that mindset shift, it took a few years. And, I still think there's a little bit of that. If I'm using the coach, then I'm not good enough. Or that coach came from our building. There's teachers that had been working longer than her, and they felt like, how would she know? How can she coach me? And we know that that's not what coaching's about. That's about mediating someone else's thinking, but there's that mindset. And I think AI is a great opportunity because it's so new for everyone that it almost eliminates that piece of I'm not good enough, or I'm somebody that needs coaching. So I look like I'm not prepared or not doing my job.
Yes, 100%, 100%. I was trying to find a way in this presentation to say, like, we need a new name. We shouldn't be called coaches. But I couldn't find a cute way to connect it back to like Taylor Swift. So I think I left it out. But the idea was, yes, exactly that. Like, we should not be called coaches. Like, that's not, we can support and we can
We're
help.
leaders.
But right, but we're not, the teachers are calling the plays and we're helping them develop the playbook for themselves. Like, we're just there to support them in what they need to do. But yes,
I think of a
100%.
thought partner.
Yes.
Your coach is really like your thought partner, and that changes it. I'm going to my thought partner now.
Yes, I love that very much. Thank you. Yes. Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna jump in and add to what you had said about overwhelm and teachers not knowing what they need. And I think I was a coach for 2 years and then I went back to teaching again. So instead of just saying, what do you need? And then them saying, I have no idea. I think to reframe it and asking, okay, where are some roadblocks that you're having, or what are some problems that you're experiencing right now? What's preventing you from doing your best work? And
Yes.
that's more of an introduction point than tell me something you need.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic approach. Like, where are you feeling like uncomfortable in your practice? I love that so much. And AI may come up with that. So that is a great way to open the door, not only to get some ideas on how they can lay that agenda, but also hopefully lay a really good relationship foundation. Because if you're saying, like, I get it, I understand, how can I help you with what you want? Not I'm coming in and saying, like, this is
what
not
you do.
Right. Yeah. Because that can be really condescending, and it shouldn't be. Laura, go ahead.
Again, I've gone through this, and the IT people that I worked with, basically they wanted the customers to do all the analysis, and that was my job as an IT person, is do the analysis. And again, when it's new technology, they don't know what the technology can do, but
Yes.
you know what the technology can do, and then you know what the customer wants, and then you can show them what they need. And after a while, then they can push the ball themselves. But having them analyze and figure out what they wanted was not realistic when this was such a new technology. And that.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's why I hate to call it like a leading question or a guiding question, but providing some opportunities, some choices, especially when working with teachers, is so helpful. So Laura, like exactly what you were saying, as instructional coaches, yes, Should teachers be keeping up with this? Probably. Do they have the mental bandwidth? Probably not. Do they have the time? Probably not. Do we? Can we make that time? Yes, absolutely we can, right? We're not the ones chasing after 18 to 30 little humans.
Right.
So we should be the ones staying on top of, at the very least, some of the new chatter. We are the ones that can really be leading that change. We learn it, we take it to the teachers, we work with them in the way that they want it, not in the way that we decide they need it. And then that way, AI, unlike, say, social media, where the kids took hold of social media and then they drove it because everybody was like, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. Even YouTube, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, when we should have embraced it and guided our students, guide our teachers, then guide our students on how to appropriately use it. Didn't work quite that way. We need to learn from that and other past lessons so that we can do what we need to with AI, and not place it squarely on the teacher's shoulders, to make it just feel a little bit more comfortable. Go ahead, Laura.
So how do we find out all this information to keep abreast? Well, I have email lists that I subscribe to that are on this. And so like one of them, every time they send out an email, they're telling me about new AIs that are out there that are all built on ChatGPT, but are personalized for that audience or whatever. And I also have on Facebook some groups that I belong to. And again, I teach at the college level, so mine are all post-secondary groups I'm part of. And so those kinds of things have fed to me a quicker way to gather that information. And then I'm really weird because I had my own webpage up in 1995. So I would just throw those links up onto a webpage and organize them. So one of them was a page on ChatGPT, one of them was a page on Office, and another one's on prompts. And oh, I have so much on Excel. Let's make its own page. So I've organized information that way forever. If I wanted to learn a new software or something, back before there was really good Google stuff that
Right.
feed you, I would have links so that if I went to a customer's office, I just had to remember my URL and then I could show them the stuff. So there are ways to expedite the learning through, as I say, through email lists I subscribe to, and I have this on Facebook. I don't know what else is out there for other mediums, and that would be a good excuse for me to go and work in some of those other mediums, is to get some groups that I can join there. But
Absolutely. Yeah, and you you jumped ahead there. You're a slide ahead. That's fantastic. I'm super excited because there's so many ways. Should instructional coaches be leading that learning for some of the teachers? Right? Aren't all of the teachers. Some of the teachers are going to be like, I got this, like, leave me alone. Help me with something else. Right? But a lot of teachers that support in helping them be adaptable, one little piece at a time.
EduMatch Publishing is dedicated to inspiring a love of reading in children one story at a time. Our books are designed for all ages and are written by educators for all students. Our goal is to transform your home or classroom into a world of reading, where students can explore and learn. As the publishing branch of EduMatch, we're proud to offer books that are created by experts in the field of education. Order your books today and start a new tradition with the special kiddos in your life. Visit our website to learn more.
And so even instructional coaches, they can't devote 100% of their time to learning AI, right? But if you pick a medium that you're comfortable with, you gather some information, these little bits and pieces and these little ideas. So I would challenge you all, question, what would be your way to get started if you were an instructional coach or an educational leader you know, wherever you're at, what would be the way that you would dive in to say like, okay, this is the first thing that I need to kind of gain some experience with so I can help my teachers adapt to this big change. Hi, Kim. Yes, please jump on in.
So I'm not a instructional coach, I'm a teacher, but I think a great starting point would be how AI can make our lives easier. What simple things can we do on the day-to-day that will make, excuse me, that's why I've been muted because I can't stop coughing. How can we apply AI tools to our everyday teaching to make our lives simpler? Because as you were saying, we don't have the mental bandwidth.
Yes. So if I were to have come to you and said, okay, like you've expressed interest in AI, you know, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a tool? Are you looking for implementation? Or are you looking for your own productivity? You could easily say my own productivity. Like I want my life to be easier.
Absolutely.
So fantastic. That is great. And that is great to know that would be a great, even if we didn't ask that question, that's just a good jumping off place for teachers. Because it gives you that hands-on playtime that you can then, because I think every teacher takes the ideas and then it's like, how can I use this with my kids? Like that's just how your brain works. Vicky, go ahead.
I'm working with a school right now on professional learning communities, and we've been talking in teacher teams about using ChatGPT, like, you know, I'm making this assessment, but so I put the passage in, but I need to change the reading level to, you know, to a level 12 so that I can support my students that are struggling more. Or I need an assessment, and can you give me a question in depth of knowledge 1, 2, and 3 for this? So, you know, kind of taking some stuff off of our plates and getting like a draft of assessment tools or questions that I can ask. We were even playing around with, can you give me a 20-minute intervention lesson on blah, blah, blah? And it, in seconds, pops out this lesson, and then as that team, they can start working on it and go from there and adjust it however they want.
I love it. That blank page is often the hardest thing to start on, right? So if we can get ChatGPT to do that first work, then the editing is, well, it's not easy by any means. It's not as taxing. Thank you. Laura, go ahead.
Yes. So when ChatGPT, I started being interested in it, it was showing that all the teachers loved it because it would write lesson plans and all of that. Well, teaching at the college level, I have a book that's doing all that kind of work for me. And then in Canvas, I'm given a template that the person that leads the CIS 105 classes gives us, and we can do some modification, but we're trying to standardize and all that. So ChatGPT that's doing all that, I have already had that. So then I looked at, because I teach basically the survey of computers. They have a book where they're learning what makes up a computer, basically some of what our majors are on AI, or doing the behind the scenes web page and all that. And then we learn Microsoft Office. And so after they complete the Excel, I start talking about ChatGPT, and then I have an Excel assignment where I show them in class using prompts and how to get ChatGPT to create the spreadsheet. And one of the things it does is it doesn't know how to use the sum formula. And so I get hallucination answers. It's like perfect. I can talk about that. And then there's a really cool app, but I didn't know it only worked for 90 days. So I was going to just show them that, but my license expired. But so that's how I incorporated it into my class. And again, I just give them the text that I showed them in class. that I typed in ChatGPT, and I tell them to go and submit it, and then submit a Word document that shows that they did those steps. And because this is at such a new stage that I just have to get them to be comfortable. I don't have to have them figuring out what the prompts are and all that. I just have to have them go over there and be comfortable. And again, I went through this with PCs and web pages. Is first we got to just get the concept. Like when the web came out, teaching them that an underline means a link. And that,
Yes.
so again, having been through this, I realize what stage we're really in. And that combines with my having an undergrad in management computer systems and a WP Carey MBA. I mean, that's the kinds of things that I've done and my kind of critical thinking prompts me to do. But so at first, right now, you're just getting people comfortable and knowing what it is.
Absolutely. That is absolutely. It reminds me, I watched a TikTok or something, like a reel of a news show, and they were talking about how AI is cheating, and the guest was like, but is it? Because we need to look and we need to change the way we view it. Are we needing to always look at the end product as the learning, as the evidence of learning, or can we now flip that equation and take the end product and use the process as the learning? There's so many things that we could do that we haven't needed to in the past, and we just need to change it. And so even those little things like, oh, an offhand like late night social media scroll, like that's an idea that we could take to our teachers, that they don't have to think about, that we could plan with, that we could be Vicki, what did you say? Like brainstorming partners, right? That's not the exact word. Thought partner. Yes, that we could be thought partners with. Yes. Go ahead, Laura.
They've recently shown an old video when the web exploded and people were learning that there was an @ sign in the email address, and they hear these, NBC people talking about this new thing sounds hilarious now, and of course they would laugh. And again, that's where we are with ChatGPT. It's such a new thing, it's such a new change, and if it can give us such productivity, what right do we have to not let the students get that productivity?
100%. So this almost last slide, basically I just provided you with some links, some examples of places that we can go as teachers, as instructional coaches, as leadership, to say, like, there's so much to learn. Where do I go to get started? Think about, like, how are you comfortable learning, right? So you've got a conference right here. There's so many presenters. You can reach out to any single one of them. I would be willing to bet money so that you can talk to them. Right? You go to the session, you learn, you talk to them on Twitter, on email, whatever. You've got websites like magicschool.ai, free for educators. Like, they gives you that work. It solves that blank page. You've got articles that you can read that give you chat GPT alternatives, or things like customizing, making education more personal. You've got webinars. So Swivel's got a series of AI webinars. Digital Promise has a variety of AI webinars and conversations that they push out on. I think I see them on LinkedIn. So webinars are hard for me because I've got little ones who take my attention, but boy, do I love the mindless scrolling, and I can search a hashtag. And I was not going to put mindless scrolling on this presentation, but it is, I would argue that yes, it does work for learning. And so these are just some approaches that you could take to take on that learning to then support your teachers, right? And then we're going to end literally any second now. So I just wanted to say thank you all for sharing your stories and your experiences. And thank you for exploring with me how to adapt to AI in education, mistakes and all, because we all know that it's okay to make those mistakes, just like Taylor Swift did once upon a time.